Communication scholars studying campaigns often talk about stakeholders, and it might be helpful to spend a little bit of time thinking about what we mean by stakeholders. In the context of health communications campaigns, stakeholders are of course the individuals and patients themselves, but they're also professional organizations that are networked relationships of medical providers. They're also government organizations or senior government officials themselves. They could be community development agencies that are on the ground and localized action response teams. They might be larger nonprofit foundations that are in charge of raising money or collecting donations to disperse to those community development agencies. Or they could, of course, even be scholars like ourselves in disciplinary communities who are involved in otherwise improving the practice and treatment of health communication. Health communication scholars, and even those who study persuasion like myself, believe that better health communication can lead to at least 5 positive outcomes. The first is we believe that better health communication can lead to improved patient compliance, meaning that they'll be more likely to do what the doctor recommends if they are persuaded by that doctor. Secondly, they believe that they'll increase patient satisfaction scores with improved health communication. Third, research tends to indicate that improved satisfaction scores and better health communication lead to better patient retention rates, or a likelihood of follow-up and otherwise being able to sustain that treatment over time. Fourth, it shows that better health communication leads to overall improved health outcomes. And fifth, better health communication is proven to lead to reduced medical malpractice lawsuits that can be incredibly expensive for medical providers and facilities. In this sense, for all of these reasons, both healthcare providers and patients themselves should be looking for ways and aspiring to find ways to improve their health communication. So as you think of examples of public health and health communication campaigns, you might think about examples that are related to a whole host of different topics associated with health, nutrition, and fitness. And as you do, you might note that a number of these communication campaigns tend to use a pretty sophisticated visual mechanism of displaying information. Here we see a number of pretty simple cartoon examples that are provided in an otherwise iconic graphic style, but we might think about the way that health communication campaigns rely on simple messaging strategies to reach wide audiences, and we might think a little bit about the various different appeals baked in to the forms of messages we're analyzing in the upcoming FACT campaign paper. I chose these 3 examples because I think they demonstrate perhaps a higher level of sophistication in the claim and in the audiences that they appeal to than the former. So we can see here in the first, it's a pretty bold claim as it says, using cocaine tonight, ? And then goes on to warn users about the potential risk that fentanyl might be contaminating their cocaine. Perhaps that provocative claim, using cocaine tonight, is meant to draw audiences in, and perhaps it's also meant to target and tailor itself to a very specific and narrow audience of perhaps already sympathetic users. You can imagine that a message like this would trigger high elaboration. If you're somebody who does use cocaine and you see that sign, you're going to pay direct attention to it. It highly elaborates, it directs your motivation. However, if you're somebody who has no interest in cocaine and has no likelihood of using it, then seeing that message is likely going to cause low elaboration or little motivation to read the rest of the message. So there we have an opportunity to think a little bit about elaboration likelihood. And of course you can see other examples of more sophisticated messages included on this page as well, including various different example exercises that you might be able to use to break up your daily routine of sitting at the desk. Perhaps I'm providing those more as a help to those virtual viewers who might need to take a pause and stretch. Finally, as you're investigating a health communication campaign, or really any campaign, it might be helpful to think about the way that that campaign is networked with larger organizations. And so here in these examples, we can see the way that these various different forms of display advertising have been used to try to demonstrate the connection these organizations and charities have with other various related nonprofit organizations or community-based stakeholders. You can also see how, similar to the political communication campaign strategies we've described, these display media often use things like hashtags and various forms of key terms that might help in search engine optimization to drive their audience's attention to the message. In this sense, you might think about the way that some of the same strategies and tactics of traditional marketing are used in these forms of campaigns as well. As we're wrapping up our campaign unit, we have a few things just around the bend. Our next video lecture will be about visual persuasion and campaign design, and that will of course provide you with a number of fruitful concepts you can apply in analyzing the aesthetics and visual media of the materials you are looking at for your upcoming FACT campaign paper and associated outline assignment. Those materials are due in just a couple of weeks, so pay attention to those due dates on the course calendar, and also make sure that you're following along with Writing Journal number 7, as that's coming up just around the corner. This concludes our presentation on health communication campaigns, but of course you can reach out to me at any time if you have questions or just want to discuss upcoming topics for your FAT campaign outline and paper assignment. I'm available through Google Hangouts almost all the time, to send me a message on there, or of course you can send me an email and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.